You're watching Satluj TV News. I'm Angus Scott in London. After a year-long investigation, the BBC have reported the shocking state of press freedom in Kashmir. Their findings make concerning reading after revealing that the Indian government has all but quashed any free press in the region. According to the BBC's findings, journalists live in constant fear of being arrested and detained under questionable charges of terrorism should their work stray into any criticism of the Modi government or its rule over the Kashmir region. The BBC spent over a year investigating accusations against the Indian government that it was running a sinister and systematic campaign to intimidate and silence the press in the region. Their investigators had to meet journalists in secret, each of whom asked for their names to be hidden, fearing reprisals. When the region's top administrator, Manoj Sinha, was confronted about allegations of a media crackdown, he claimed the press enjoyed absolute freedom. Journalists were detained and arrested on terror charges and for attempts to disrupt social harmony, not for journalism or for writing stories. However, after the year-long investigation interviewing many journalists across Kashmir, the BBC investigators found countless stories to directly contradict this. Over 90% of journalists questioned confirmed that they had been summoned at least once by the police, and some had been detained over their news reports. While some stated the police had remained polite, others claimed they were met with anger and threats. As one stated, "We live in fear that any story could be our last story, and then you'd be in jail. Journalism is dead and buried in Kashmir," said another. Only recently, we reported the forced closure of the Kashmir Walla news portal in Srinagar, whose journalists were blocked from accessing their own website and social media accounts, and then the team evicted from their premises by government order. Their chief, Fahad Shah, was arrested and imprisoned on charges of terrorism for his reporting in the region. There have been accusations of human rights violations by Indian security forces in Kashmir, which have fueled anger against Indian rule and support for pro-Pakistan insurgent groups in some parts of the region. As a result, journalists claim the Indian government is trying to shut down reporting related to separatist movements and militant groups, but also any coverage critical of the security forces or the administration itself. Militancy does remain an ongoing problem for the Indian government, and the Prime Minister faces a challenging path to maintain peace in the region, even to the extent of having to impose anti-terrorism legislation to keep a lid on problems before they arise. However, as many journalists highlight, it is a fine balance to control militancy on the one hand, but it is a failure of democratic governance to then abuse that same legislation for political gain, an accusation now often levelled at Narendra Modi. Since central government took direct control over India's section of Kashmir in 2019, there has been no elected regional government, and when asked by the Chief Justice when regional democracy would be restored, the government refused to give any timeline. A free press remains one of the key bastions of a functioning democracy, ensuring any government remains accountable to its people. However, the ongoing state intimidation against Kashmiri journalists and the regular closures of any outlet daring to criticise the Indian government raises alarm bells to the outside world that the Indian government does indeed have something to hide. You've been watching a Satluj TV News special, and you can find more stories in detail on our channel, Satnet News, so it's worth clicking on that subscribe button to make sure you get to see stories as they're broadcast. And don't forget, if you have any comments or opinions on any of our news stories, you can drop us a direct message at message@satlujtv.com. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime, thanks for watching. For Satluj TV News, I'm Angus Scott in London.